Good afternoon, everybody. We're coming to you live from the CanDo podcast. Super excited to have my man Chuck Casano on the line. Chuck, how you doing today?
Doing wonderful. It's Friday in San Diego, so no complaints.
No complaints. I know the weather is sunny. You can check it with. You can put a nail in that forecast down there in San Diego. Well, like I said, guys, I'm super excited to have Chuck Casano on. He is the founder of Pitaya Foods. And guys, there's no better super smooth smoothie out there than what Chuck makes. I tried it last night for the first time, put a little raspberries in it, a little sweetener, and it tastes great. I wanted Chuck to share his story with you because it's a real can-do story. And on top of that, in the midst of everything that he's done and all of his successes, and we'll get into that, he's also taken over a very successful distribution company that's specifically designed to help other frozen food brands. And I want him to get into it and talk about his experience as a CEO and a industry leader in his field and how he got started. So Chuck, let's get started overall. How in the heck did you get into business like this, getting foods from Nicaragua, and just, the whole story, because it's very interesting and I want you to share it.
Yeah, so never imagined ending up in the natural food space, but always been pretty entrepreneurial at heart. Started after I graduated university, was just working for IBM in sales and marketing and working with 300,000 other employees. And I knew that wasn't going to be my destiny. So I kind of wanted to take some time off and look at other options. And I ended up doing an MBA in Spain that had like an entrepreneurial focus, and it's a great program, Instituto Empresa in Madrid, Spain. And it had about 200 students from 70 different countries. So you're really exposed to a lot of different people from all over the parts of the world. And just kind of took my time there, learning, put a little finance background and built that foundation that I didn't really have. And then came back to the US, thought I was going to be an investment banker, but it was 2008. And instead of hiring people at banks, people were jumping from the windows because they didn't know what was going on. So was actually supposed to start at Bear Stearns the week that they went down. That same team went to Lehman Brothers. And they're like, oh, just let us get us settled here and then we'll bring you over. And then Lehman went down and I found myself in New York City with not really understanding what I should do with this new MBA that I got. So started networking with my friends from my MBA, and one of my friends was working in Nicaragua for a nonprofit, and their thesis was they would help alleviate a little poverty through growth of the private sector. So they would align with other MBAs, help grow small businesses, and with those small businesses growing, those would create new jobs. And it was great. And I applied for a fellowship, got it. And I was the next flight down to Nicaragua. I'd never stepped foot in the country before, but really just, there was nothing going on in New York and really wanted different exposure. And it was amazing. Nicaragua is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere behind Haiti. But they have, the people are very generous and very kind. And a lot of the projects that we were on were agricultural focused. So I found myself just driving around all the country, understanding farm capacities for the first time. I'd never spent any time really on a farm growing up on Long Island, New York. So this was a totally new world to me. And really just fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people, and then came back from Nicaragua and looking at, just the landscape. The banks were still not really hiring, but coconut water was exploding, acai was exploding, and all these superfruits were exploding. And, I'm like, where's my dragon fruit smoothie that I was having every day down in Nicaragua? And it didn't really exist. Started to do a little research, went back to Nicaragua, spoke to a lot of the farmers, met up with an American guy, Will Burke, who was starting his own company, trying to export dehydrated organic fruits and working with farmers to get them organically certified. And he and I kind of joined heads and created like a frozen supply chain to get the fruit out of the country. Yeah. And we started as a juice company, and we were bringing the pulp up and juicing it in Southern California. And part of our mission, our core mission, was we're going to promote organic farming down in Nicaragua. And we did that with a promise to just 10 small family-owned farms that, whatever USDA certified organic red dragon fruit that they could produce, we would purchase 100% of it. And we helped them got certified. And then where we process the fruit, we're trying to give jobs. We aim to give jobs to single mothers down in Nicaragua. We call them our super moms. And we start with 10 super moms, literally like hand filling smoothie packs and pulp and getting it to the US. And that has grown substantially. Our last audit, we've helped over 850 farms get USDA certified organic down in Nicaragua. Last year, we created over 175 new jobs for single moms down in Nicaragua. And these are all audited. These are not like what we're trying to do. This is stuff that we actually do every day. And then it just kind of grew from there. We like I said, we started as a juice company. Whole Foods loved our mission and the support that we were giving and the promotion of organic farming. So they were very key in authorizing this juice. But it was tough. It was really tough. We launched this juice right when cold pressed juice and the Blueprint and Suja were coming out, and we're trying to sell like a $2.99 bottle of pasteurized juice, and nobody was having it. And it was, we were grinding. Whole Foods was supporting it, getting onto the shelf. We just couldn't get it off the shelf. Right. But we grew to from the outside, it looks like we were doing great. We grew to 6 regions. Every time we launched a region, just like you were demoing last night in Whole Foods, my girlfriend, now wife, we would drive to every Whole Foods and demo. We can make the claim that we've both demoed every single Whole Foods in SoCal, NorCal, Rocky Mountain, Northeast, and North Atlantic. Was until we ran out of steam. We just load up the Prius and demo like crazy and really try and support the brand. But even with all our support, we couldn't get it going. So then we kind of evolved into a frozen fruit company.
Well, I got to tell you, in doing research and looking over everything, it's so funny, our similarities. Number one, it starts with demoing. Like I said, last night I was in a Whole Foods last night until 7 p.m. doing demos. And, you and I started in finance. I started at Schwab and worked 15 years in that business, helping people build out portfolios. Never in my wildest dream, even though I had a passion for food and an extraordinary passion for people, would we be in the bar business slinging bars. But it's turned out to be an incredible thing for both of us. And I'm just so impressed by your ability to bring people together, because honestly, we talked about passions and love, and our love really is aligned with people and helping, people become better. Talk about that connection. You said in one of your interviews that what really excites you about working in Nicaragua was helping the super moms become even more super and leaving Nicaragua a better place. And you've certainly done that. And I just think that story is so touching and so compelling. I'd like you to touch on it a little further and where you're at now,
Sure.
With Pitaya Foods and just, I love the feel good stories.
Yeah. I mean, it's first of all, I loved going to Nicaragua. It's a beautiful country. It's really untouched. And it's somewhat of like a time machine. They're still cutting down sugarcane with machetes. And so, the people definitely, my wife and I ended up getting married in Nicaragua. Like we're very, a real connection to the country. But it's extremely poor for a million different reasons. But we just wanted to make an impact where we could, right? And so before we came along, we were the first ones to really export this out of Nicaragua into the US market. And so everything that these dragon fruit farmers would produce would most likely be consumed locally. So they were kind of capped by their growth because of the local market. The country only has a population of 6 million people. So you can only sell so much to that group. So we thought by opening up the US market to this wonderful fruit, these farmers would be able to, create, produce more and sell more. And we help at a ground level. Our partners have agronomists in the fields. When the season's off season, we're providing them with organic fertilizer and inputs to increase yields and increase fruit output, so they can have better lives, or not better, but maybe make a little more income. And it's been great. I mean, we've been doing this for 12 years now. And, when I go back and visit the farms, there's kids that I remember were just like babies on this farms that are now like 15, 16 years old working on these farms. So it's really
so rewarding, Chuck.
yeah,
I'm smiling from ear to ear, and it's so great.
Yeah. And so what we're trying to do now is, we're trying to take that 10 years of experience in Nicaragua and try to apply that to supply chains all around the world and work with different partners. We choose who we can work with, and I think we're sourcing from 5 or 6 different countries right now. And for example, when we're looking for avocados and mangoes in Peru, there's multiple facilities, but we've honed in on one that creates jobs for Venezuelan refugees and works with them to assimilate them into the economy, give them jobs and get them into society, not just kind of like a handout. And, so it's not going to be exactly the same program in Nicaragua, but we can definitely focus on supply chain and really try and make sure that everybody benefits from, throughout the supply chain, from the farmer all the way to our customers.
Very cool. In that research process, what is the first, take me through the first 3 to 5 steps of what you need to look for?
So we have what we call a FSVP, a Foreign Supplier Verification Program.
Yep.
So it's got all the criteria, child labor law audits, organic farming methods, criteria, quality and processing, and we look for a lot of third-party audits that are pretty strict. Now that we sell to Costco and Whole Foods, they have some of the strictest standards. We got to make sure that everything's audited. The biggest truth is that my kids eat more of our brand than anybody else, so it's got to be safe for my kids, got to be safe for everybody.
Of course. I'm sure your kids have spent a lot of time down there in Nicaragua working on the farms and doing that. That's great. How old are your kids now?
No, they're young. They're 7 and 3 years old, but they've been to the farms and been to Nicaragua.
Got it. And then you kind of branched into this high touch distribution. Tell our audience that doesn't know a lot about distribution how you, number one, can benefit, and number two, most importantly, the brands that you work with. You built out such a great portfolio. And how did it come about where you decided, hey, I need to take on this, I need to partner with a distribution company?
So it's kind of a long story, but I'll try and keep it.
You can condense it or whatever.
I'll condense it for you. So high touch distribution was born of the ashes of a failed distribution company that tried to grow too quick and too wide and was undercapitalized. And unfortunately, I was an investor in that distribution company. And when they failed, I was looking at the financials and realized, they were profitable in Southern California. So I thought, I was friendly with the team members. I'd flown when I was doing the juice through this distribution company, flew some of them to Nicaragua so they could meet the farmers and really get behind the brand. So I had a really good relationship there. At the same time, a lot of the retailers were saying, we know this company's going bankrupt, but we need this service. We don't want it to go away. So when they went bankrupt, I grabbed one of my partners, Czar Danielko, who had a ton of experience with Adwala and Coke, and he's our COO. And I said, hey, what if we just start over and just focus on Southern California? There's enough business here. It's one of the biggest economies in the world. Let's just see what we can do here. And he was on board. And, so what high touch distribution is we're a full service DSD service. So we walk into the stores, we look at all our partner sets. We see, if we build our orders in the store, and that's kind of the secret sauce, is that we get to write our own orders. We're not waiting for any POs. And we can do that because we guarantee sales to our retailers. So right. I can go look at the Keto Crisp set and say, okay, they need 5 cases of this, and there's no risk on the retailer because we're guaranteeing it all.
I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about taking in bars?
Yeah, we do a couple bars. So we are focused in perishables, but we do a couple shelf stable stuff. And I've talked to Mr. Clifford about this a couple times, and it would definitely worth having another conversation with you guys.
Of course.
So So we kind of look at our partner sets, we build that order, we go through the back door, the receiver of Whole Foods, they check everything in, and then we merchandise to make sure there's no out of stocks, and when we put everything on the shelf. So we're like full service DSD. And I think where we really show the most value is kind of like the bookends or the opposite ends of the spectrum of a brand. 75% of our portfolio is local brands in Southern California that Whole Foods is our biggest customer. So when they're looking for something cool and new and they want to get it on the shelf right away, they'll call us and they'll be like, hey, can you work with these guys? And we'll vet them. And it's a lot of hand holding. Normally we're like the first distributor for these brands, but we've had a lot of success from a lot of these baby brands going into big powerhouses like Mush, and I think Salty, we were their first distributor in SoPac. There's definitely a couple more that are just escaping me right now. And so we work really well incubating these brands. And then the other big brands like Koya, Rebel, GTs, where their product moves so quickly, like they can't afford to be out of stock. So we're in these stores, we go to every store either 3-4 times a week. So we're constantly filling the shelves. When those guys go on promo, we're helping them secure like secondary locations and off-shelf locations. So that's kind of where that's where the value is for a lot of our suppliers. A, if you're just starting out, or A, if you've already made it and your business is so banging, you can't afford to be off the shelf. And so everything we do, or all of our trucks are refrigerated. So we cover all the Southern Pacific region, including Arizona, Nevada, except we just don't cover Hawaii. And then we cover all the independent retailers like Mother's, Jimbo's, Lassen's, every independent pretty much in Southern California, except for Gelson's and Sprouts.
Well, it's a great service, especially for emerging brands like Keto Crisp and some of the other ones, just because of the hand holding that you talk about and bringing that experience to the table. You have been in the CPG space for quite some time now. What's the biggest shift that you've seen in frozen foods? And what do you talk about innovation? I love to talk about innovation all the time. What are you working on Pitaya Foods that you're most excited about? I was in I saw the set yesterday, and you have all kinds of flavors and all kinds of things. I was so excited. I picked about 3 or 4 different flavors, and I love to talk about innovation. Can you talk about innovation as it relates to Pitaya and what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we really just want to be on the kind of cutting edge, or like we want to be a discovery brand of new fruits. So we're always scouring the globe of, A, is it healthy? Is it healthy for the planet? Is it healthy for the people? And, what we've learned now is like, is it scalable, right? Because, we're in tens of thousands of doors right now. So we can't just launch something at 200 retailers and that'd be it. So that's been some of the challenges, because there's so many amazing fruits out there, and then it's working with farmers to get them scalable, whatever part of the world we have. The biggest challenge right now has just been travel limitations due to COVID. We're anxious to get them lifted, to get back, get to travel. We really preach a lot of food safety and quality, and a lot of that comes from us visiting, on-site visits in these countries, making sure everything's up to code. And not having been able to do that for the past 2 years, we're doing audits that are, via Zoom and trusting these third-party audits. And it's just better to have a better relationship with our suppliers and whatever. So looking forward to that. So as far as innovation, it's just constant, right? Like we're
Right.
always on the prowl of new fruits. I think we're going to start seeing some more ready to eat and frozen snacking. We're getting pretty excited about. We've got a couple of things in product development with that. And yeah, frozen was like, it was kind of this sleepy category. And then COVID, we benefited greatly because of COVID. It sent so many customers to the frozen doors because more people are eating at home, and there's, nothing easier to cook than a smoothie.
You're right. I want to bring up a very important date as I was doing some research. Tell me what March 13th was all about for you, and, as far as from a high touch standpoint.
Is that the day we launched?
No, that was the real day of COVID. Like,
oh yeah.
When you walk into a grocery store and the shelves are empty and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was surreal. I think it was around March 13th. That was when everyone was pantry loading. And so we were like all hands on deck, and I was with my team at like 3 o'clock in the morning on a truck, and we pull up to the first Whole Foods, maybe a day or two after that. And, the shelves were just ripped. It was just like a ghost town. And we were there, and we didn't really run out. Like, we were smaller, we were nimbler. So our brands really benefited having us, because we can get in there day after day. As the biggest concern was just our team members, right? Because we're so full service and we're in these stores all the time. Like, we just didn't want to we didn't want to have exposure to our team. But
at that time, nobody knew what COVID was and just how dangerous it could have been or is.
Exactly. And so we kept delivering, and it wasn't like our competitor, or UNFI, fills 90% of Whole Foods shelves, and it wasn't like a competency problem. It was just capacity, right? Like, there was probably, they were sending one truck a day to these Whole Foods where, they'd been totally empty, and you probably needed to send 10 trucks at once to fill them back up. And so it just we were back online a lot quicker. And it was really went deeper with our partnership with Whole Foods, because we talked about how we could lower exposure to these guys. So we did a little less merchandising, but did more drop ship. And because of that, we were able to actually, normally we do like 3 stops a day. We were doing, 7 or 8. So the frequency of drops were getting there, but we just weren't merchandising. And that was also because Whole Foods, their team members had extra time on their hands because there was no product to merchandise or like put back on the shelf. So we would drop it and it would get back on the shelf. But it was crazy. We would show up at a Whole Foods and they would just say, give us everything in your truck. And we're like,
As a serial entrepreneur, what gets you most excited? I know we're switching gears here, but there's so many different cool questions that I want to ask. And I know you're so team driven and people driven, and how can I improve things and how can I help others? And I'm so, it really warms my heart. And we use the term inspiration a lot, but you're a true inspiration in doing that and bringing people together, and to be able to be a leader in the distributor world, and then obviously in the CPG space. What gets you most excited about being a serial entrepreneur?
I mean, just seeing growth and like, what keeps me motivated is my team. Like at Pitaya Foods, everybody shows up. They bring something new to the table, and all the people that we're supporting in Nicaragua, that's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me driving. And like, I just feel like I'm totally lucky to be in the position that I am. Where I get to run this company and work with people that I love. And, we've just been this kind of like under the radar brand for a long time, because we've kept our heads down. We're not the brand in the news raising all this capital, where we've been profitable for 7 years. So we haven't had to raise capital. And we just do our own thing and make our own decisions, and we make decisions as a team. My partner, Ben Hiddlestone, has been with me since day one. We've now been working 11 years together, which is just crazy. And then we have other guys on the team who've been here for 8 or 9 years. So it's like, we really are a family. And so I just feel totally lucky to get to do something like this and provide something healthy for everybody. Like I said, in the supply chain is, we're not selling cigarettes or booze. We're selling healthy fruit. And, it's just something basic that feels good. And on the other side, for High Touch, I just love seeing the innovation, all the craziness that comes in with, we get samples in our fridge of every item you'd ever think of from all over the world. And we're kind of, because of where we are, we're in Southern California and we deal with Whole Foods. We're kind of like at ground zero of innovation. Like if you're fresh and cool and want to launch, most likely you're going to launch in Southern California. And so we just have access in this never-ending pipeline of cool brands that are knocking on our doors. And it's fun. It's our job to talk to everyone. People ask, how do we get in front of it? It's like, we need to know what's cool. We need to know what's popping. And so we really, I don't think there's, we talk to everybody and just to get their story initially. And so that's the fun part. And then, picking and weaving to see who's going to make sense and who do we think, actually, who are the people we want to work with. Like working at High Touch it's, we're in the position right now that we get to choose who we want to work with. And that is such a big part. And, it's a team effort. If you want to be successful with a distributor, you got to have a team, you got to be invested in the distributor. The ones that are not invested, they usually don't do too well.
Right. And I've noticed from experience, it takes, obviously this goes without saying, but you really have to, the brand and the distributor have to be on the same page at every level of it. Otherwise, it's not going to work at all.
Absolutely.
You talk about meeting people and meeting brands. We're a couple weeks away from Expo West, and people have been away. I assume that you're going to be there.
Yeah, so I'll be there with Pitaya Foods, and we just made that decision like less than 2 weeks ago. I was in Vegas. I'm sorry we didn't meet up in Vegas, but I was out at the Fancy Foods, and I was like, kind of when I got back from that show, it kind of inspired me to pull the trigger on Expo West. I'm pretty excited. We locked down a booth on the main floor, and our team is ready. And I think everybody's going to be ready to get back. We'll see how it goes. I thought Fancy Foods was good. I thought the vibe was good there. Like, from the brand perspective, the vibe was there 100%. I don't know.
100%.
Right.
I agree. And it was just, and I don't mean to interrupt. I was just, for us, I was just so happy to be back because I love to interact with people and I love to see what brands are doing and to bring people together. You can only get so much out of Zoom. I mean, I can't wait to shake your hand and give you a hug.
Yeah, we'll be there again.
Yeah. It was just really cool. And, like you said, from a brand standpoint, I really felt the vibe and the excitement again, like, whoa, we're coming back.
What about the important question? Did you get the vibe from buyers? Were there buyers around there?
There were a few buyers, not as many as we'd like, but,
yeah.
I think there were a few, but I do think it was definitely worth it. I would say, there was probably some B+ buyers. What about you?
Well, I was just there as High Touch, just checking out. So we didn't have a booth, and I was walking with my partner Czar, and we were just. It was a good show. It wasn't too crowded. It was probably about 70% of the normal size, but we walked the whole show in like 3 hours and came back the next day and tried to talk to as many people as possible and just like I said, the energy from the brands, you could feel it, and I was texting Clifford right after the show, like, hey, dude, were there buyers out? Should we do Expo? And he was like, he kind of had me on the fence, and then we ended up pulling the trigger, and we're excited. I think our whole team's excited to get back there. So we'll see.
Obviously I think it's going to be lighter than years past, but I think we got to take baby steps. And,
totally. Exactly. Lighter is a good thing. It was too big. So it's opportunity to reset like this is great. Did you guys do Expo East?
Yes. And it was a huge success for us. In fact, not Expo East this year, but before COVID. And that was actually our first real introduction to Whole Foods. And that was incredible. And I'll never forget getting a call from, the regional buyer saying, Adam, we'd love to bring in your SKUs to start with in the SOPAC region. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. And literally, I did demos every day in any store that they would let me get into. And it was just great. And the partnerships there are wonderful. And, I'm so thankful for those relationships in our team. And I got to ask you this question because, we are the CanDo podcast. And you've certainly had a lot of can-do moments where life is about what we can do, not what we can't. Chunk, thinking about it really quickly, what is your biggest can-do moment where you always wanted it to happen, but you weren't really sure, but you stuck it out and boom, here it is?
Yeah, I think it was just being in Nicaragua and seeing the possibility of being able to do this and start with baby steps. And We did raise some capital in the beginning, and getting that vote of confidence from one investor to set us free and start exporting this stuff and going and just taking the plunge. And, I never thought we'd be as big as we are today. I really just thought it'd be like a small business that could do a little good in the world, and just really grateful for where we are and being able to grow with our team is kind of our big, long CanDo moment. And we give like CanDo moments every day, and it's just continuing to grow and fight.
It's funny how you say, like, even when we started, you not that your expectations are low, but you just never know. You just try to grind every day and to get better every day. And that's what we try to do in life. The same principles in life are in business. You just try to get better every day. And before you know it, you got you got a chance.
Yeah. I think that's it. We stayed focused on the little goals. And then every year or so you look up and look back, and you just keep doing it and say, hey, we're still growing. Hey, we're still growing. And that's the exciting part for it. I never thought I would still enjoy doing this as long. There's still challenges that come up, it's like, there's still new things. Like, you never know everything. And there's like, it's just this constant new. And we've been really fortunate with growth and timing, and everything seems to have fallen into place at a good time for us.
Well, I couldn't be happier today to have you on the show and to meet with you. I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Chuck.
we'll see you at Expo.
Yes, I look forward to it. And I want to talk more about your golf game. I was talking with Matt last night. He said, you guys get out and play golf from time to time. And I'm a big sports fan, so that's pretty cool. Tell me about your golf game.
I just play a lot because my partner, Ben Hiddlestone, and my business partner, Ben Hiddlestone, we've just been battling ever since day one of Pitaya Foods. So we get to be able to cut out of work together and go play a little golf. And living in San Diego, we just enjoy it.
No, the nicest courses are there. And so, listen, again, Chuck, thanks so much. I really enjoyed the time today. Did you have any questions for me or our audience? Number one, I want you to do this, and I'm sorry for being all over the board. I'm just excited. How do people get in touch with you and find out more about your brand?
Sure. You can follow us at Pitaya Foods or hightouchdsd.com. You'll find us. Search Dragon Fruit. We usually come up number one. But we're not high. We're easy to find. And if you got a brand that you're interested with High Touch, just send to contact at hightouchdsd, and we'll take a look. Great. Well, thanks again for today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for your time, Chuck. It was great to meet you, and I really appreciate it. All right. Take care, bud. Have a great weekend. You got it, man. Thank you so much.